I still remember that morning, the sound of rain against the tin roof, slow and steady, like a heartbeat trying to remind me I was still alive. It had been years since I'd last heard from my son Daniel. Years since that door slammed between us. He was 20 then, angry at the world, angry at me. Maybe he had every right to be. His father had left, and I tried to be both mother and father, strong when I was breaking inside. I worked nights, missed birthdays, and said things I shouldn't have said, sharp words that still echo somewhere deep inside me. People say time heals, but that's only half the truth. Time doesn't heal what you never face. It only buries it until something, a song, a photograph, a rainy morning, digs it all back up again. That day, as I poured my coffee, I noticed his old jacket hanging near the door. I'd kept it all these years, telling myself I'd give it back when he came home. Foolish, maybe, but it made me feel like he might still walk through that door someday. I often replayed that last argument in my head. He told me he wanted to quit school and work with his friends at a garage. I told him no, that he was too smart to waste his future. I remember shouting, "You'll thank me one day." He shouted back, "You'll regret this one day." And he was right. After that, he left with only that old jacket and the silence he wrapped around himself like armor. The years passed quietly. The world changed. My hair turned gray. The house grew smaller. Some nights I imagined him sitting somewhere far away, maybe married, maybe happy, maybe still angry. I prayed for him, even when I wasn't sure he still believed in prayers. Then one morning, an envelope arrived. No return address, just my name, written in handwriting that tugged at my heart. Inside was a letter, greater than Mama. I hope you're well. I've been meaning to write for a long time. Life's been hard, but I'm doing okay. I still have the jacket you gave me. Funny how it's the only thing that's lasted this long. I used to think you didn't understand me, but I know now you were scared for me. Maybe I was scared too. I'm sorry for the things I said. I hope you can forgive me. Your son, Daniel. I must have read it 100 times. My tears fell on the paper, smudging the ink, as if the words themselves were weeping with me. I wanted to call him, to hear his voice again, to tell him I'd been waiting for this letter longer than I could admit. But there was no number, no address, only his name, and that was enough to break me. For the next few weeks, I wrote him letters of my own, pages filled with apologies, memories, and love I'd never spoken out loud. I mailed them to the old address I remembered from years ago, though I didn't even know if he lived there anymore. Months passed, no reply. Then one afternoon, a small parcel arrived. Inside was that same jacket, folded neatly, washed and worn thin at the edges, and a note. She said you should have this. He talked about you often. I'm sorry, that was all. No name, no details, just that. I sat on the porch for a long time, the jacket pressed against my chest, the rain beginning to fall again. The sky wept with me that day. I realized regret isn't just about what we did. It's about all the love we never said, all the time we thought we still had. The rain finally stopped by evening. I hung his jacket by the door again, not because I believed he'd come home, but because it reminded me that once I was loved fiercely by a boy who called me Mama. And maybe, somewhere beyond time and distance, he knows that I never stopped loving him back. That night I couldn't sleep. Every creak in the house sounded like footsteps. Every gust of wind like his voice calling Mama. I kept waiting for something to happen, a knock at the door, a dream, a sign. Instead, the house gave me silence. I made tea and sat by the window, watching the moonlight spill across the old photographs on the table. There he was, 6 years old, holding a paper airplane. There he was, 17, laughing beside his friends. So many moments I'd been too busy, too tired, too proud to notice. Regret doesn't shout, it whispers. It sits beside you in the quiet hours and asks, what if you had just listened? What if you had said one kind word instead of the last harsh one? For years, I blamed time for taking my boy away, but that night I realized time had only done what it always does. It kept moving. While I stood still in my stubbornness, I wrote in my journal until dawn. Greater than, if you could read this, my son, I would tell you that mothers make mistakes too. I thought love meant controlling every step you took. I should have trusted that you'd find your way. You did. And I'm proud of you, wherever you are. The next morning, I walked to the little park at the end of the street, the one where I used to take him when he was small. The swings were still there, squeaking softly in the wind. I sat on the same bench where I'd once tied his shoes and told him to be brave. I whispered into the air, I'm sorry, Daniel. A breeze moved through the trees, gentle and warm. Maybe it was nothing, or maybe it was the only answer I was ever meant to get. Weeks turned into months. Life went on in its slow, ordinary way. I planted marigolds in the garden, joined a small church choir, started talking to my neighbors again. Each little thing was a step toward forgiveness, not of him, but of myself. One Sunday after service, a young woman approached me. She carried a baby on her hip and looked nervous. Are you Mrs. Thompson? She asked. Yes, I said. She smiled softly. My husband talked about you. His name was Daniel. She hesitated. I'm Emily. My breath caught. I didn't know whether to cry or fall to my knees. You knew my son. She nodded. He wanted to come back, but the accident happened before he could. He told me he'd written to you. He kept your letters. All of them. She opened her purse and handed me a small bundle tied with ribbon. Inside were my letters, creased, tear-stained, but safe. He used to read them out loud, she said quietly. Said your words gave him strength when work was hard. I couldn't speak. All I could do was hold that bundle against my heart. Emily smiled through her own tears. He'd want you to meet your granddaughter. She lifted the baby toward me. Tiny hands reached out and grabbed my finger. For the first time in years, I felt warmth that wasn't mixed with sorrow. We sat together for a long while. I told her stories of Daniel's childhood, how he once tried to build a birdhouse out of cereal boxes, how he loved the rain but hated thunder. Emily laughed, the baby cooed, and for a moment it felt like Daniel was right there between us, smiling. When they left, she said, he always believed you'd forgive him. And he forgave you long before the end. After they were gone, I walked home slowly, the afternoon sun glinting off wet streets. The rain had stopped. I placed Daniel's jacket over the back of his old chair and set his letters beside it. The room was filled with light, the soft, forgiving kind that seeps into every shadow. I whispered one last time, I love you, my boy. I always did. Then I closed my eyes and let the peace settle in. Maybe regret never truly disappears. It just softens, turning from a wound into a reminder of love, of lessons, of the time we once thought we had. And sometimes when the rain begins again, I sit by the window and imagine he's out there somewhere smiling, knowing that his mama finally found her way home too.